Hello there and welcome. It's time for another round of Star Wars Shatterpoint. This time it is game one from our local tournament at Magic Stronghold, at the September tournament, and they're nice enough to grant us the table space on a monthly basis so that we can have our 3-round tournaments, which is really great. And we also have a community around that area that keeps up with organizing and keeping the tournaments fun and interesting every time, encouraging people to play new stuff. And so one of the things we were doing was Lee had created a bingo sheet that with stuff that we would try to accomplish during the rounds of the tournament, and which was a good side thing, but I won't talk about that too much because I only filled 11 squares and made 0 lines, and I also want Jeff to not get too triggered and continue watching this video. So the other thing that was happening for this tournament was Lee had come up with this format, which we are calling Lee Mir, but others are calling it 3 Mir. But anyway, you bring 3 squads, and throughout the 3 rounds of the tournament, you have to play each pairing once. So I've been dying to play Moff and Thrawn because I had picked up those boxes before the Grand Tournament, but wasn't comfortable bringing them to the Grand Tournament, and I've gotten them just pretty much painted to my level that I do, and but with this 3-squad format, I had picked up the Darth Vader pack as well to go with it. And I mentioned in my short before the tournament that basically if I saw Empire or kind of a more aggressive killy team on the other side, I was going to go with Vader and Moff Gideon, and Trorry had Vader, Moff Gideon, and Iden. So I risked the mirror match and picked Vader Moff. He also picked Vader Moff, but in my team, I've swapped Kallus and the ISB agents in for the Stormtrooper Sergeant and Stormtroopers. So it's almost a mirror match, but just barely, not quite. So my list is the top one. I'll be playing on the left, and Trorry is the bottom list, the 2 packs as is, and he'll be playing on the right. We both brought Never Tell Me the Odds and picked the symmetrical one where it's the cross. So luckily, since neither of us have ISF or Rebel Commandos, neither of us got the farther away objective. So with that, let's get started. So Trorry is going first, and he has picked Death Trooper Escort. He's going to get the Stormtroopers at dash. They'll be well in contesting range of that objective if they weren't already. And then he's going to do tactical advance, or no, do a move action to the ladder there, and then take cover for Hunker. So we'll both control our back objectives. No one scores yet. So I pick the Shatterpoint. So having watched a few of Donovan's games, I knew how strong the play um, of having Moff Gideon go first and um, dash a support and then Long Live the Empire them as well. So himself and the support are on the midline on an objective. How strong that play can be. So I do that. And so dashing a Dark Trooper, dashing Moff, and then looking at the distance because there is a ladder near the center point on that side, just up against the gantry. I see that I need to do the take cover action first in order to get in range, but the Dark Trooper's in the way, so I Long Live the Empire first, which does 2 damage to them, but gets them to the ladder, and then he can do his take cover and move action after. Now, in attempting to do this, I bump everything. And so I see now that in the process, I thought crates had fallen off, but that crate just moved, so I actually end up putting more crates up there. Should have looked back at the recording to see that it was just the one up there, because that does affect how many people can get close to that objective. So yeah, that ladder's really not staying on, so we put one that has a ladder hook on it so that it can stay even though it's not the full length. Put him in a position where Moff Gideon can also end up there. So then Moff Gideon's going to do his take cover and advance to the ladder as well. So it's not quite the same as having Count Dooku and the Magna Guards on that sort of play, because of course Dooku gives out the same dash to a Separatist Alliance character and himself, and then the Magna Guards follow up with an advance when he does his move. But it's so because Dooku's definitely more defensive than Moff Gideon, but not a huge. I mean, there's definitely a difference in health, I guess. They've got protection, and then his defense is definitely not as good as Dooku's. But it's still decent enough to deal with on that. So I will score 3 points on that. So Trorry has drawn Vader. So the fact that Vader can go or be shuffled back into the deck if he doesn't wound somebody definitely affects how kind of the perspective on going early with him, even if he can't get into melee range or kind of do an attack effectively. You can still get him moved up and threaten to have him go again later. So Trorry's doing that, just take cover and move to get to the first ingress point, and hoping to get him again sooner rather than later. But he will take his 2 points and get a momentum for it being on my side. I've picked Kallus, so he gets a dash off of his tactic ability. I'm hoping that with the advance, he can get to the ingress point on the outside, but he does end up falling just a tiny bit short. So if I had done the move action or the take cover action first and then the move action, that would have gotten me there. But I really wanted to start getting shots into the Death Trooper, just in case I am able to put pressure on that point later on with the movement that Moff Gideon is providing. So I'm going to spend the one for prepared for any encounter, get the focus action, and Sharpshooter 2 for 3 more dice on this attack. Just throwing the 5 damage from 2 successes and 1 from expertise into Death Trooper, down to 4 since because of protection. Don't really have anywhere to shove him, and no one could take that point if I did anyway, so just going for the damage. So then I get the 3 points again. Trorry's getting the Shatterpoint, and he's going to go with Vader. See what he can do with that center objective. Doing a move action, anger, hate, and aggression, and he's going to attack Moff Gideon. 5 shed inside. Gets 3 extra dice from Anger, Hate, and Aggression for 10. And 1 from his Moff Gideon, because it's a melee attack on a point, an active objective that is controlled by me. Takes an expose from rolling a fail. So taking the bottom track, and I'll get 5 damage, pin, and 2 shoves. But there's not much he can do on shoving wise because of that Dark Trooper. So I'm off just taking the 5 damage and a pin. Trorry will get 2 points in momentum. And that was a Shatterpoint, but Vader's already back in the order deck, so not getting shuffled back in. My Vader is going to go next. Or be drawn next. Similarly, I can move him into the board and do some damage and then shuffle him back in. So I go that route, refreshing a force, and seeing how far I can get. Checking how close I would need to be in order to get in range 4 of the Death Trooper to do another attack on him. Taking his move, action, doing Anger, Hate, and Aggression. Moving straight forward again. So yeah, he's out of range of the Death Trooper, so I'm just going to throw an attack into Vader instead. He is exposed, and this will be 8 dice. I think. I think he might have looked at the wrong expertise on that last attack. Shouldn't have been an auto damage there. That's the ranged attack. So yeah, my Vader is getting exposed because of rolling a fail. So getting 2 steps for 4 damage, shove and pin. Seeing that I can push him back and into the middle block that ladder a bit. And off of the point. So now he still needs to, he's still sitting 2-0 on that point. And taking the follow-up to get a little closer into the action before shuffling Vader back in. So sticking with those 3 points again. Trorry is picking his Stormtroopers. They're going to do assault tactics for each getting a dash. And they're both going to shoot Moff Gideon. Get a pin and 2 damage through. He was already pinned, so that'll be a 3rd damage. Getting 2 down his tree this time, plus the pin and damage from 2 expertise. So 3 damage, 4th from the pin and strain. So that will wound Moff. And so getting momentum there. Take cover, gain a hunker, and so that'll be 2 points and a momentum. And my Death Trooper is going to go next. Now I can give out a dash to supporting unit, but if they have damage on them, which the Dark Troopers do, then I can give them a reposition. However, I also see that I can steal the back point on that side. So with the dash not doing much for the ISBs, I already have a Dark Trooper on the center point. Then I consider that the Death Trooper escort might also need the dash in order to get to that back point, and that would mean me getting 4 points instead of 3 and start pushing the struggle a little faster. So I decide in the end to give the dash to himself to make sure that I can get in range of that point. So takes the dash, which gets me in range of that ingress point. And then the tactical advance. Well, I realize here that a simple move action would have been enough from there to get in range of that point. So he could have just done the dash from tactical advance and then the move action and be in range. But because he was greedy and took that dash, I just do the second dash from tactical advance. Do plan to take a follow up from doing shoves on the attack to get in range, and then just take cover, or well, yeah, just take cover after that. So taking the dash, getting my focus action, and sharpshooter 1. So I can throw 9 dice, and I could pick Vader, Stormtroopers, or the Stormtrooper Sergeant. I decide to target the Stormtrooper Sergeant because I think that if I can push him back and disarm, and especially if I can get the pin, then that makes his activation very, very lackluster. So I only get one success through because I rolled 3 expertise for the crit and a damage. So I decided to do 2 damage and strain instead of the push, because I can take cover to get into range and steal that point, and then it still gives him a difficult choice whether to recover or just take the damage from that strain when he's a little limited on what he can do during his activation with Stormtrooper Sergeant. So taking 4 on that one. And he goes with Dark Troopers. So taking their advance, making sure he's not ending up engaged with Darth Vader. So they're both gonna take shots at the other Dark Trooper, my Dark Troopers, I believe. 5 damage, in disarm, and he gets a jump. That'll go down to 4. Oh no, that was on Vader. Because Vader was exposed, so he's taking advantage of that. Four damage, and pin, which will do 5 damage. And he also gets the free jump. So now he will be outbodying 2 to 1. Vader got a heal off of his defensive expertise, so getting rid of the disarm. So doing the take cover action mostly because it's one of the bingo squares. Won't get the hunker, but he does get a little movement with the 1 in order to be closer on that point. He will flip it for 3. And get a momentum. So drawing Moff Gideon next. He's pinned and strained, which is not great, but he's also on a point already that I want to flip and will break the tie also. So you can give a Galactic Empire character within 4 a dash, and so shedding the strain, the dash that he gets will get rid of the pin, and then I can actually give Vader another dash. So dashing him back to the ingress point, get him up to the elevation of the center. Even though my plan is to probably send him towards Death Trooper still, but this way he doesn't have to do a climb. I may forget that Moff gives himself a dash, which would have gotten rid of the pin, because I think he remains pinned. But I just do a focus and attack on one of the Dark Troopers, also getting extra die from his ability since they control the objective. So burn them outside, make sure I get a shove. Getting a damage from the expertise. So he gets 5 steps on this attack, which does 7 damage, 2 shoves, and then I get a active ability. Shove him once, thinking to get him off the gantry, but also towards the ISBs so that they have a target to start hitting. Thought about the second one, but don't want to put him in range of that objective. So then at the end, get a free long live Empire. I'll give the ISBs each a dash, but they'll also take 2 damage. And then I'll flip the center objective for 4 points and get me the struggle. It's the one where it's 2 objectives on either the left or right of the board, and 1 in the center, the midline on the other side. So he goes with the one where his Death Trooper is on his. The ISBs are on the fail, which is the priority. I still have a Dark Trooper back on the other one, but my Death Trooper is on his other back point, so good reason to not pick that. Also, Kallus is down. Yeah, basically, if you pick the other objective, I would have had all three. Whereas this way, uh, he has one, I have one, and then the other one is empty. And so, getting Stormtrooper Sergeant, he's able to advance his Stormtroopers onto that point. They take a damage, but now he's got two bodies on that point, so he'll be scoring the two objectives. So Stormtrooper Sergeant is going to take 3 damage from the strain. He does the climb action, and it's going to do an attack into Death Trooper Escort. So he's getting one more dice from Coordinated Offensive. Reactability doesn't cost any force, so add a die for each other allied Stormtrooper unit that is within 5 in line of sight of the target. He recovers 1 damage and does 2 damage, but it's down to 1 because of protection on Death Trooper Escort. And so he will get 2 points. Priority is the objective the Stormtroopers have, which I was hoping to not have to deal with because I don't really have a lot of stuff on that side of the board. Death Trooper Escort has already gone, but I kind of forgot that Dark Troopers hadn't gone yet because the one moved to the center of the board turn 1 with Gideon. But I do see that with a advance and jump, I can probably get pretty close and hopefully can shove a Stormtrooper off. Maybe the follow-up. Maybe I'll need the follow-up in order to get them both in range. So I go for that. I need to do the jump first because they're engaged with his Dark Troopers. The move action does actually get that one from the center in range of the objective and at a good angle to shove the Stormtrooper as well. Because they're just to the right. The one is just to the right of where I put the Dark Troopers from our perspective. And they're going to do melee attacks because they get an extra die from Gideon. So doing 2 damage, push and pin from 2 successes. So that will already get him out of range. and also nice to have the pin on them for when tries to move them back. The other one is also going to attack, but attack the other one, so that's melee attack again. So this one gets a full tree from Trorry's unfortunate defensive roll there. And with them having 6 health left, I can do 6 damage. And especially since that pin is going to become a damage as well. So getting the wound, as well as shoving the other Stormtrooper off. So I've got a momentum. And I don't need the jump, so I'm going to go the strain route, put another condition on them. And so that will get me 3 points. Trorry points out that it is the supporting units for challenging the odds. So because I wounded someone with my supporting unit, I can spend 1 to move the struggle token 1 further towards my side. And looking at what I have left, I have Vader and ISBs in the deck. Vader's going to refresh 1 before he goes, and the ISBs will use 1. So I do pay the 1 for that. Moving it to 2. Already stays there, and Trorry pulls his Vader again. So just like the Dark Troopers, he can dash and advance towards that point. So that should be able to get him in range. However, he does need to wound the Dark Troopers in order to take it. Back to Gemso, since he really needs to go for the wound, not just the shoves. They have 6 health left, but with protection, he needs to do 7 damage, which will take 4 steps. So rolling a lot of expertise on that. So I reduce crit to a hit and block 3, so he is left with 3 successes. And so that'll do a strain and 6 damage, which goes down to 5, leaving the Dark Troopers with 1 health left, unfortunately. So Vader will get shuffled back into the deck, but he's not scoring that priority point for 2, and also not getting the dash, which would potentially put Stormtrooper Sergeant also on that point and have it so that he has it 2-0 instead of me 2-1. So a very unfortunate Vader roll on that. So he will just get the 1 point and a momentum. And then I pull my Vader. So now it is time for him to go after Death Trooper Escort, as I've been attempting to set up. So refreshing a force, using it immediately for anger, hate, and aggression. The dash to Ingress points down, and already engaged with Death Trooper Escort, and in range of the point. Just do a focus action, add another die. This attack, because my plan obviously is to murder him. Get into Gemso. So getting my full tree on this for 10 damage. I think throw last strain, yeah, add the disarm on there, and just use the shove to follow up, get closer to that point. So that will be a momentum, 4 points, and then because he wounded someone, he can tell someone else to dash. So I give Death Trooper Escort a dash onto that point with Vader and the Dark Troopers. So now, even if he wounds the Dark Troopers, he also has to move someone else onto that point to get it. So Trorry calls it there, seeing that he at most can get 2 points. All he has left in the deck is Vader and Moff Gideon. So he sees that they can only really affect 1 point, and if it's the priority, then he can get 2 points potentially. But then on my turn, it's fairly likely that I get 3 points and finish the game. I mean, there is the potential that that the roll, if he flips the priority point and then that point it remains priority, then maybe I end up and I don't flip it again, and that would continue the game. But he sees that with the board state, it's that would maybe just be kind of delaying the inevitable. So anyway, this Vader Moff list showing its ability to play a strong control game. We actually I only did 2 wounds. Trorry only did 1. So just like kind of in Donovan's games, actually pretty low wounding. You want Vader to be doing wounds, but there's a lot of early shoves in this list. Vader's Form 5 Shen, shove on 1. Moff Gideon has early shoves, a shove on 1 side, 2 and 3 on the other. Both of your secondaries have early shoves. Dark Troopers also shove on one, shove and pin. And ISBs, they didn't get to activate, but they also have that early shove. So they have a lot of displacement. Nobody is unable to move people off a point. Moff Gideon also brings a decent amount of out of activation movement along with Death Trooper escort. So you're moving lots of bodies and also shoving the others off. So I think the swap was good. Putting Kallus and ISB agents under Vader. Kallus kind of weakened the Death Trooper so that Vader could come and finish him off with a good attack. The ISBs I am so far finding to be decently consistent, especially if you can get them in melee, focused with their impact. You can at least kind of expect to get that shove. So, and I saw that another grand tournament recently, somebody ran a full premier list, and they also made that swap. So, I think there's something there. Whereas I swapped Stormtrooper Sergeant and the Stormtroopers into Thrawn's list because he's the one really leaning into a lot of out of activation movement and the control aspects. So I feel like they fit better with that swap. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the game, and stay tuned for the next one.